maybe I don't know if this is really the job of the FSC organization on your website or through USGBC and our means of communication, but if we can get out to consumers the right questions to ask, because I still find again and again people who, if they were a statistic, they fall in the category of driving the Prius and they're into the slow food movement and they buy organic foods and they're supposedly very globally aware, but when it comes to renovating their home, they want the cheapest, hardest wood, the most beautiful, cheapest, hardest wood. And as they should have a beautiful wood for their floor. They can afford it, that's not, with apples to apples comparisons, they shouldn't look at a lesser product, a quality product, but they're not asking the question of exactly where this wood came from and even understanding the ecology that the tree grew. And I really think that understanding would influence one's decision. As a designer, certainly, I didn't know how ipe trees grew until I saw them in Brazil. It's like logging a magnolia tree. The efficiency of getting wood out of a tree like that it's ridiculous. It's more horizontal than it is tall, and it blooms in these great big pink and yellow flowers. And it's amazing to me that we have this massive import of ipe lumber from trees like that. It's not a tree you can farm, as far as I can tell. It's covered under up to 3 feet of water 6 months of the year, which is how it evolved to be so incredibly durable to begin with. But that kind of understanding certainly has influenced me in how I would use ipe. I don't want to see it, over 5 stories of a rain screen. I want to see it in selective areas of decking, if used at all. But that's me standing up on my soapbox. But that kind of understanding, I think if the website could, maybe for each kind of wood, show the habitat that it came from, and that understanding of how fast does it grow and what, how old is a tree before it's harvested.
I think the thing, we are the Forest Stewardship Council, we're not the Tree Stewardship Council. So really what we're about are these ecosystems, and trees are a really fundamental part of it, but we're about that bigger picture about biodiversity and other ecosystem services. So I think we probably aren't going to do that. I think there's a role for others maybe to do that. I think having that connection, like you say, and having the story is a great one, and I think there's a really great role for someone to do that.
Well, I think the retailers are doing it. I know.
Yeah, I think some of them are.
Website, you'll see deep information about each tree and species. I suspect on your website
we have some of that.
I know you guys do.
Yeah,
we have
a huge list of species
are out there doing it.
On our website.
Yeah.
What I think the specifiers can do, though, is when you're sitting down with your clients, but let's start out. You want the illegal wood? You ask that question.
Right.
Because often I think throughout this whole thing, the retailers and specifiers haven't taught the customer to ask the question.
Right.
And once you ask the question, then you find really different answers. Yeah. Do you want the home with the clean indoor air quality, or do you want the home with the old stale air? Well, consumers didn't know they could even ask that question before.
Yeah.
They didn't know that they had the choice of, sustainable wood or unsustainable wood. And I think at the designer end and the interior decorator end, we all need to ask that question.
Education is the role of all of us, but it would certainly take the burden off probably most of us in this room if the consumer could have a better understanding of where that wood came from, how old is it, and that cheaper price is because it hasn't been from a managed forest.
Can I just say something real quick? Because I think sometimes when it came time, when I had to explain to customers about costs, I think sometimes you can just get so consumer, you can just drown them in all this information. And I would simply say to them, this is especially when formaldehyde plywood was your 9-gray formaldehyde plywood was more expensive. It was $10 a sheet more expensive. And I would say to them, well, what do you think? You spend $60,000 on your kitchen, and it's going to use 20 sheets of plywood. So you're talking, what, $400 on your $60,000 kitchen.
Right.
And so for $400, you can have plywood that's FSC certified, and it comes from a sustainably well-managed forest. That's it. None of the carbon, none. And you can have glues that don't off-gas. For $400 on your $60,000 $1,000 kitchen. Oh, okay. It's kind of that simple.
Well, it's really not.
Well, I
I don't agree with you. And if you're talking about a $60,000 kitchen, I can understand that. But when I'm talking to a 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 million with 150 line items, $400 to $800 to $1,000 per line item makes a big difference.
Mhm.
By the time the bottom line comes down, and if it's a matter of me getting a job or losing a job, what am I going to do?
I have a challenge for you as a committee. I mean, we've talked about a lot of things, and there's an awful lot of the educational burden that falls on Corey and Bill. And, yeah, and everyone tends to point the fingers at FSC, but FSC has gotten as far as it has on this tiny budget, basically because there's been a movement that's grown up around it that's really driven it because it's so darn important. And if we've achieved anything today in winning over your hearts and minds, I hope that you as a committee will take the stuff that's most valuable and turn it into educational tools that are useful for your peers and get them out there. Here in the Northern California chapter, share them with other USGBC chapters because we need all the help that we can get in the FSC world. We are really under-resourced, and these kinds of practical tools, you know, what's going to make it work for you, that's going to work for builders all over the country.
I agree.
And if we could get, you know, something going like that, it would be tremendous, where it doesn't, you know, all fall on Corey and his staff of 3.
No, Piper, and just I could offer this. In my 12 years of experience doing this, the best way to promote LEED, green building, FSC, is simply to state it as a choice to your customer. And the more that we can all do that, the better off. And I always believed early on that green building would actually take off in a downturn. Because when building was going fast, builders didn't have time to talk about anything new. They just didn't. Let's get it done. I have never seen in my entire career more interest in innovation than I see right now. People, business leaders want to differentiate. And we all have a little extra time on our hands right now. So it's an exciting time for LEED, for green building, for FSC, because I see our customers out there figuring out, well, if I did this, if I did a percent FSC, or I built Bringer, if I did, I'd have something different than my competition. Everybody can be cheap. Not everybody can be smart. And the smart folks are going to advance the market, and they're going to offer that choice. And I think that's what really makes a difference. The more tools we put out there to get the choice in front of the users of our products, the better off we're going to be.
I have to point out the irony of large developments often require clearing of land, and there's this weird thing of maybe we shouldn't be building at such a fast rate. Yet buildings
That's been solved.
built at such a fast rate